Toma walked alone through the dead city. The sky was gray. The wind pushed dust across the empty streets. Buildings stood like hollow giants, windows broken, walls cracked. Nature had taken back some of it. Vines climbed metal. Trees grew through roads. But the world felt cold and tired. He wore a brown coat, full of patches. His boots were old, but they still held together. On his back, he carried a bag with tools, food, and a small radio that almost never worked. His eyes moved quickly, watching for danger. Not many people were left, but the city still had threats. Broken machines hunted for parts. Old defense drones floated in the air. And sometimes, others like him, survivors, would fight over what little remained. Toma was careful. He didn't like fighting. He didn't steal. He took only what he needed. His goal today was simple. He wanted to reach the top of an old satellite tower on the edge of the city. He had seen its red light blinking from far away. Maybe it still had power. Maybe there was a working signal. Hope was rare, but not dead. The tower stood alone at the edge of a dry riverbed. Rust covered most of its metal surface. Birds circled the top. The door was open, but jammed. Toma pulled it slowly, then stepped inside. It was dark. He turned on a small light and walked up the narrow stairs. Each step creaked. Dust floated in the air. On the top floor, he found broken screens and wires. A chair lay on its side. The place smelled like metal and rain. Toma set down his bag and moved to the main console. He wiped the screen and tried the buttons. Nothing. He sighed. Then he heard a sound. It came from outside, a soft hum. He looked through the broken glass. In the sky, something moved. It was not a plane. It was not a drone. It moved too smoothly. It left a silver trail behind it. Then it dropped, fast. Toma watched as the object cut through the clouds and fell toward the northern mountains. Then came the light, bright blue. A soft boom followed. The earth shook under his feet for a second. Then silence returned. He stood still for a moment. Was it a crash? Or was it a weapon? He didn't know, but it was not from Earth. That much he felt deep inside. No human ship looked like that, and no signal had warned of visitors. Whoever it was, they were not part of the world he knew. Toma packed his things. He left the tower and walked fast. His heart beat harder now. The mountains were far, but he had been there before. It would take 2 days, maybe 3. He had food for that. He had water. And he had questions. Why would something fall here now after all these years? Most of Earth had gone silent. Cities were ruins. Colonies in space had taken the rich and the powerful. Those who were left behind were forgotten. Even the machines didn't listen to Earth signals anymore. And yet something had come. As he walked through the city, he passed a broken statue of a man holding a flag. The flag was torn. The name of the hero was gone. It didn't matter now. No one remembered. No one cared. He moved fast, staying in the shadows. Night was not safe. He reached an old tunnel that led out of the city. Inside, it was dark, but quiet. He lit a small torch and followed the tracks. Rats ran past his feet, but he didn't mind. He had seen worse. In the tunnel, he stopped to rest. He ate a dry meal, drank a little water, and checked his radio again. Still no signal. He thought about the crash. If it was an alien ship, maybe it had survivors. Maybe they needed help, or maybe they were dangerous. He didn't know, but something inside him felt pulled toward it, not by greed, not by fear, but by something else. A voice in his mind whispered that this moment was different, that this event mattered. He had lived alone for so long. Friends were gone, family lost. Earth had no leaders now, no hope, just pockets of people trying to live one more day. He had accepted that. He didn't expect miracles. But a ship falling from the stars, that was no small thing. When morning came, he left the tunnel and followed an old road. Birds flew above. The wind was cold. Clouds moved fast across the sky. He walked all day. At night, he camped in the shell of an old truck. He dreamed of lights in the sky and a voice calling his name. The next day, he reached the edge of the forest. Beyond it lay the northern hills. The crash had looked close to the Silver Lake near the old power station. If he was right, he could reach it by nightfall. He entered the forest. The trees were tall and full of noise. He stepped carefully, watching every branch and leaf. Once he heard a machine nearby, but it moved away. By the time he reached the lake, the sky was turning red. Smoke rose in the distance. He followed it. His steps quickened. Then he saw it. A silver object lay broken in the snow. It had slid down a hill and left a trail behind. Part of it still glowed. The metal was smooth and strange, not like human ships, not like anything he had seen. Toma crouched behind a rock and watched. No sound came from the craft. No movement. He waited a long time. Then he stepped closer. His heart pounded. As he neared the ship, a door on the side opened with a slow hiss. A soft light poured out, and someone stepped out. Not a robot, not a machine. A person. Tall. Wearing light armor. Her eyes were bright blue. Her hair silver like the ship. She looked at him, calm and still. Toma didn't move. He was ready to run if he had to. The strange woman tilted her head and said, "Are you human?" Toma nodded slowly. "Yes." She looked at him for a moment and said, "Good. I need your help." Toma stared at the woman standing in front of the strange silver ship. She was tall and calm. Her light armor shone softly in the last light of the day. Her skin was smooth, her eyes a clear and cold blue. There was something different about her, something powerful and quiet. She had no weapon in her hands. She looked tired but strong. "My name is Mira," she said. Her voice was steady and clear. "I come from far beyond your star." Toma did not speak right away. He had seen machines that looked human before. Some were broken and dangerous, but this one felt real, alive. "I'm Toma," he said at last. "You are not from Earth." "No," she replied. "I am from a place you have never heard of. I did not come to harm your world. I crashed because my enemies attacked me." Toma looked at the broken ship. The hull was torn open in one place. Sparks danced across the damaged panels. Smoke still rose from the back. The ship was not flying again. "Are they coming?" he asked. "Maybe," she answered. "If they find me, they will destroy everything in their path. They do not know mercy. I escaped with something they fear." Toma watched her carefully. "Why should I trust you?" Mira's eyes met his. "You don't have to. But if I fall here, your planet may be next. They will come for your colonies too. The humans who left Earth long ago, they will not be safe either." He looked away. He had heard stories about the colonies on Mars and beyond. He had never seen them. People like him had no way to leave. Earth was all he had, even if it was broken. "Why come here?" he asked. "I had no choice," Mira said. "My ship was damaged. This was the closest place I could reach without being caught." Toma walked around the crash site slowly. He saw the damage more clearly now. The ship was small, made for fast travel, not war. It had one seat. The wings were cracked, the back half was burning. Mira could not go anywhere without help. She sat on a rock and pulled off her glove. Her hand looked human, but with silver lines under the skin. She reached into a pouch on her side and pulled out a small cube. She held it carefully, like it was something very important. "This is what I escaped with," she said. "It holds a command code. If I can send it to my world's network, I can stop the war before it reaches you. But I need a tower with power, one that can reach orbit." Toma thought about the old towers. Most were dead. But there was one near the cold mountains, deep in the north. He had never been inside, but people said it still had power. "There may be a tower," he said. "It is far from here. We would have to walk. Maybe 5 days." Mira nodded. "I can walk." Toma gave her a piece of dried fruit from his bag. She took it without a word and ate it. Her movements were graceful but slow. She was still recovering. They set up a small fire using dry branches. Mira shared a small round stone that gave off soft heat. Toma had never seen anything like it. They used it to warm their hands. As night fell, the stars came out. The forest around them was quiet. Only the wind and distant water could be heard. Toma sat beside the fire and looked at the stars. He felt small. He had always felt alone. Now a stranger from the sky had landed beside him and asked for his help. He was no hero, just a scavenger, a survivor. Mira looked at him and spoke again. "I know you don't trust me, but I chose this planet for a reason. Long ago, my people watched Earth from afar. We saw how your kind fought, fell, and stood up again. You are not weak. You are something they don't understand." Toma gave a small laugh. "People here gave up long ago." "Not all," she said. "You didn't." He looked at her. She spoke with quiet strength. She believed what she was saying. Toma lay on the ground and looked up. The stars seemed brighter now. Somewhere out there, ships were moving, maybe watching, maybe coming. He could run. Leave her here. Hide. But a voice inside him said no. The next morning, they packed supplies. Mira took only the cube and a thin blade from her ship. She hid the cube inside her suit. Toma gave her one of his extra coats. It was too big for her, but it helped hide her strange armor. They walked toward the north. The land became rough and cold. The trees grew taller. Animals watched from the shadows. Once they passed the bones of a large machine, broken and half-buried. In the ground, Mira asked many questions. She wanted to know how Earth had fallen. Toma told her about the wars, the greed, the loss of air and water, how people had fought over food, over land, over fuel. How the strong left for the stars and the weak stayed behind. Mira listened without judgment. On the second day, it rained. They found shelter under a rock wall. Toma gave Mira a piece of cloth to dry her face. She looked tired, but she did not complain. "I've never met a human in person before," she said softly. "Only recordings. But you are not what I expected." "And what did you expect?" he asked. "Someone who would leave me behind," she said. Toma looked at her. "I've been left behind before. I won't do that to someone else." They sat in silence for a while. That night, Mira stood watch while Toma slept. She held the cube close and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, a great power waited. Her people, her enemies. They would come. She had little time, but now she had help a human. The path ahead became steeper. Trees were thinner here, and cold wind blew across the mountain hills. Toma led the way. He knew this route from his younger days when he searched old military bases for batteries and wires. Now he was not searching for scraps. He was walking with a stranger from the stars. Mira followed closely. Her steps were light, but Toma could see she was in pain. She had not said anything, but he noticed the way she held her side when she thought he was not looking. Her crash had injured her, more than she wanted to admit. "Do you need rest?" he asked. Mira shook her head. "No, we must keep moving. They might already be tracking me." Toma didn't ask how. He only kept walking. He trusted her a little more now, not because of her words, but because of her silence. She had chances to leave him behind, but she stayed. She didn't speak much about her world, but Toma felt she carried something heavy inside her. As the sun rose higher, they found a small cave to hide in for a while. Inside, it was dry and quiet. Toma lit a small fire. Mira sat down slowly and opened her coat. Under her armor, a metal plate on her left side was bent inward. A thin red mark crossed her ribs. Toma took a deep breath. "You're hurt worse than I thought." Mira touched the wound gently. "It is not serious. I can manage." He handed her clean cloth and some water. She cleaned the mark without a sound. "Why do they want you dead?" Toma asked as he sat beside the fire. Mira looked into the flames for a moment before speaking. "Because I stole something powerful, something they fear." She pulled the small cube from her suit. Its surface was smooth and dark, but when she pressed a corner, it lit up with a soft blue glow. Tiny symbols floated in the air above it. "This is not just a code," she said. "It is a command system. With this, I can speak directly to the war fleet." Toma stared at it. "You said it can stop the war?" Mira nodded. "Yes. If I reach the right signal tower, I can send a shutdown order to every ship still linked to the old core system. My people once built our fleet with a master chain. Now they rely on new systems, but the chain still connects them. It is hidden, but still alive." "Why would they keep it?" Toma asked. "Pride," Mira replied. "They believed no one would ever dare use it. They thought their control was perfect." "And you found a way in," Toma said. Mira looked at him. "Yes, I used to be one of them. I once stood in the council hall. I was trusted. I spoke for peace. But when the vote turned toward war, I made my choice." Toma was silent for a while. Then he asked, "Are you a leader?" Mira gave a faint smile. "I was born into a high house. I was raised in the sky palaces of Traylon. Some called me a queen. Others called me a dreamer." "Which one are you?" Toma asked. She looked at him with calm eyes. "I am just someone who saw too much and could not stay silent." The fire crackled softly. Outside, wind howled through the rocks. Toma looked at the cube. "So if you reach the tower, you can send the order. And then what?" "They will know it came from me," Mira said. "They will send ships to find me. I cannot return to my world. I will be hunted." Toma stood up and paced slowly. "Then why do it?" Mira looked down. Her voice was quiet. "Because I have seen what they plan for Earth. This world is not ready. Your colonies are not strong enough. The war will break your people. I don't want that to happen." Toma stopped, walking. He felt something stir inside him. No one had ever spoken like that about Earth. Not in a long time. Even the humans who left didn't look back. "We're not much," he said. "Most of us gave up long ago." Mira stood slowly. "But not you." He met her eyes. They were serious, without judgment. "I'm just one man," he said. "I don't belong in your war." Mira stepped closer. "I didn't ask you to fight for me. I only asked for your help. And you gave it." They packed their things and left the cave. The snow was thicker now, and clouds covered the sky. They moved carefully along the narrow path, staying away from open ground. By sunset, they saw the tower in the distance. It rose from the ground like a broken spear, leaning slightly to one side. Rust covered most of it, and pieces of the outer shell had fallen away. But the top was still standing. The satellite dish was in place. A single red light blinked slowly at the highest point. Toma smiled. "It still works." Mira touched the cube. "Then we have a chance." They found shelter near the base of the tower. The wind had picked up, and snow was falling fast. They would climb at first light. As Toma lit a small fire, Mira looked up at the dark sky. She reached into her coat and pulled out a thin metal band. She placed it on the ground. It lit up and formed a small map in the air. Toma leaned over. What is that? A warning net, Mira said. If any ship enters the sky near us, it will show here. Toma watched the lights on the map. Nothing moved yet. He felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. You're risking everything, he said. Mira nodded. I know. He looked at the blinking tower above them. So, are we? The next morning, cold wind swept across the mountain as Toma and Mira stood at the base of the old signal tower. Snow covered the ground. The sky above was gray and heavy. The tower looked even taller now, rising above them like a watchman from another time. Toma looked up. Are you sure the signal can reach your system from here? Mira held the glowing cube in her hand. Yes. The satellite above is still in position. If we connect to it, I can send the shutdown order. Toma tightened the strap on his shoulder. Bag. Then let's climb. The metal steps were rusty and narrow. Some were missing. Toma moved first, testing each step before putting his weight on it. Mira followed carefully. Snowflakes landed on their faces, cold and soft. The wind grew stronger the higher they climbed. Halfway up, a step broke under Toma's foot. He grabbed the rail just in time. Mira reached out and held his arm steady. You, all right? She asked. He nodded. Just old metal. Keep going. They moved slower after that. The climb took over an hour. At the top, they found a small control room with broken windows and a half-working console. The dish outside turned slowly, making a soft clicking sound. Mira placed the cube into a port on the console. Lights blinked. The screen came to life, showing symbols in her language. It's working, she said. I can see the link. Toma stepped back and watched. Mira's hands moved quickly, typing codes and commands. Her eyes stayed on the screen. The cube glowed brighter. Suddenly, a sharp sound came from the corner of the room. A red light flashed. Mira's face changed. What is it? Toma asked. They found us, she said. A scout ship just entered orbit. It's searching for my signal. Toma moved to the window and looked out. The sky looked the same, but he trusted her words. Can they reach us here? Not yet, Mira said. But if they send ground troops, we don't have much time. She worked faster. The cube pulsed with energy. The command was almost ready. A loud hum filled the air. Toma looked up and saw something moving far above. A dark shape in the sky, round and fast. They're sending a drone, Mira said. The drone dropped from the clouds like a bird of prey. It had no wings, just spinning engines and glowing eyes. It scanned the tower as it came closer. We have to stop it, Toma said. Mira pulled out her thin blade. I will go outside. I can disable it if I get close. Toma stopped her. You're still injured. I'll distract it. You finish the upload. She looked at him with concern. That drone is not weak. It was built for battle. I've faced worse, Toma said with a grin. He left the control room and climbed to the outer platform. Snow blew in his face. He picked up a metal pipe from the ground and waved it at the drone. Come on, you machine, he shouted. Look at me. The drone turned its eye toward him. It moved fast, shooting a beam of light at his feet. Toma rolled to the side and swung the pipe, hitting the drone's side. The hit did little, but it made the drone focus on him. Below, Mira finished the last line of code. She pressed the command key. The cube flashed. A signal shot upward toward the satellite. Mira watched as the screen confirmed the upload. Command sent, she whispered. It's done. She ran outside and saw Toma still fighting the drone. It had knocked him to the floor, and its arm was raised for a final strike. Mira jumped forward and drove her blade into the drone's core. Sparks flew. The drone shuddered and dropped to the platform. Its light went out. Toma sat up, breathing hard. That was close. You bought me the time I needed, Mira said. She helped him to his feet. From above, the sky lit up. A beam of light came from the satellite, then vanished. It worked, she said. The order is spreading. They returned to the control room. The screen showed the signal reaching ship after ship. Mira pointed to a symbol on the side. That is the command fleet. It just shut down its engines. Toma leaned on the console. So the war is stopped? For now, Mira said. They will be confused. They will try to fix it, but it will take time. And maybe, during that time, peace can grow. Toma looked at her. You did it. No, she said. We did it. Suddenly, the warning map lit up again. Another ship had entered the system. Mira checked the signal. It's a royal cruiser, she said. My brother's ship. He knows I sent the order. Toma's eyes narrowed. What will he do? He will come here, she said, and he will bring soldiers. They knew they couldn't stay at the tower. Toma packed his things quickly. Mira grabbed the cube and shut down the console. They climbed down as fast as they could. The wind howled louder now, like the mountain itself knew danger was coming. Back on the ground, they ran into the forest. Snow covered their tracks. Trees closed around them. That night, they hid in a cave deep under the rocks. Toma sat by the fire, his face tired. Mira leaned against the wall, her hand still holding the cube. You don't have to come with me, she said. They are after me, not you. Toma looked at the flames. I've come this far. Might as well see how it ends. Mira gave a small smile. You keep saying you don't belong in this fight, but you're still here. I don't know why, Toma said. Maybe I just don't want to go back to being alone. Mira looked at him with soft eyes. Then you're not alone anymore. The cave was silent again, but not empty. In the darkness, 2 lives had changed, and in the sky above, the war had paused. For the first time in a long while, Toma felt like he was part of something bigger. The forest was quiet, but the air was heavy with danger. Toma and Mira moved carefully between the trees, their steps soft on the cold ground. They knew they could not stay in one place for long. The royal cruiser was near. It was only a matter of time before soldiers found them. Mira looked tired. Her injury had slowed her down, and the long journey was taking its toll. Toma watched her closely. He wanted to say something to make her feel better, but the words would not come. Instead, he tightened the straps on his bag and kept moving. After several hours, they reached a clearing near a deep river. The water moved fast, cold and clear. Toma knelt and drank. Mira followed, dipping her hand in the water and wiping her face. We need to cross the river, Toma said. It will slow them down. Mira nodded. Good idea. They found a narrow place where fallen logs formed a rough bridge. Toma went first, testing the logs carefully. Mira followed, moving slowly but steadily. The water rushed beneath them, a constant roar. Once across, they entered a narrow valley surrounded by steep rocks. The path was harder now, and Toma felt the weight of the journey pressing on him. Suddenly, the bushes rustled. Both stopped and looked. Out stepped several figures in dark uniforms. Soldiers. Mira stepped forward. We mean no harm, but the soldiers raised their weapons. Surrender now, one said. You are under arrest. Toma looked at Mira. She did not resist. She dropped her blade slowly. The soldiers tied their hands and led them back through the trees. Toma's heart pounded. He knew this was only the beginning. They were brought to a large ship waiting near the valley. It was dark and cold inside. Guards watched them closely as they were taken to separate cells. Toma sat on the floor, his back against the wall. He looked around. The walls were smooth metal, cold and silent. He wondered what would happen next. Hours passed. The door to his cell opened. A tall man entered. His face was hard, eyes sharp. He wore the uniform of the royal fleet. I am Commander Rel, the man said. You are the human who helped the traitor. Toma stood slowly. I didn't know she was a traitor. Everyone knows, Rel said. She betrayed her people. She stole the command code. She endangered the fleet. Toma clenched his fists. She wanted to stop the war. Rel laughed. Peace is weakness. Only strength matters. Mira was brought into the room. She looked at Toma and gave a small nod. Her eyes were steady. You will be judged, Rel said. But first, you will tell us where the code is. Toma shook his head. I don't know where it is. She keeps it safe. Rel's eyes narrowed. If you do not cooperate, you will face the consequences. Mira stepped forward. There is no code here. It is inside my suit. Rel looked at her with disgust. You are a fool. Your people will not listen to a traitor. Mira smiled. I do not speak for myself. I speak for peace. Toma felt hope in her words. For the first time, he saw her not as an alien stranger, but as a leader. The door opened again. A group of soldiers entered. They took Mira away. Toma was left alone, his mind racing. Days passed. Toma waited in the cold cell. He wondered what. Fate awaited him and Mira. He thought of the tower, the signal, the chance to stop the war. Then a voice came over the intercom. Prepare the prisoner for transfer, it said. Toma stood. He was led down dark corridors to a small room. There, Mira waited. Her hands were free. We must act now, she said. They will send me back to prison, but the code is safe. We have one chance. Toma nodded. What do we do? Mira smiled, faintly. We escape. Together they moved quietly through the ship. Guards passed nearby but did not notice them. Mira's knowledge of the ship's layout helped them avoid patrols. At last, they reached the hangar. A small shuttle waited. Mira opened the door. Ready? She asked. Toma took a deep breath. Ready. They climbed inside and closed the door. The engine started with a soft hum. The shuttle lifted off the ship and into the cold night sky. Outside, the stars shone bright. Freedom was close. Mira looked at Toma. You chose to help me when you could have run away. Toma smiled. Maybe I belong more than I thought. The shuttle sped toward the distant mountains. The war was not over. But together, they had a chance. The shuttle moved fast through the cold night. Below, dark forests stretched like waves. Above, stars twinkled quietly. Inside, Toma sat beside Mira. Both were tired but alert. They knew the war was not over. They had just escaped one trap. Ahead lay the last hope, the great tower near the northern cliffs. It was old, but still alive. It had power. It could send the command signal across space. Mira had to reach it. Toma looked out the small window. The cliffs were jagged, sharp like teeth. The wind howled outside. The shuttle shook as it passed, through low clouds. How far? Toma asked. Not far, Mira said. But the path is dangerous. Enemies may wait. The shuttle landed in a small clearing near the tower. The engine stopped with a soft hum. They stepped out into the cold air. Snow fell lightly. The tower rose ahead, dark and tall. Stay close, Mira said. They moved quickly toward the tower base. The ground was frozen and hard. Their boots crunched in the snow. The silence was deep. Suddenly a sound broke the stillness. Mechanical. Footsteps echoed from the trees. Soldiers appeared, armed and ready. They had tracked the shuttle. Toma and Mira froze for a moment. Then Mira took Toma's hand and pulled him behind a large rock. We cannot fight them all, she whispered. We must be smart. Toma nodded. What now? Mira pointed to a narrow path that wound around the tower. There is a hidden entrance there. It is old and forgotten. We can get inside without being seen. They ran quietly along the path. Snow fell harder now. They reached a small door covered with vines and ice. Mira pushed it open with a soft creak. Inside, the air was warm. Old lights flickered weakly. The walls were metal but covered in dust and rust. The tower was alive but barely. Mira led Toma to the control room. The consoles were cracked and dusty, but some screens still glowed faintly. She connected the cube to the main port. The lights blinked faster. The system came alive. "Almost there," she said. Suddenly, alarms rang. Red lights flashed. The tower shook. Outside, Toma heard soldiers shouting and running. "They found us," he said. Mira worked faster. Fingers flew over the console. The cube pulsed with light. "Just a few more seconds," she said. The door burst open. Soldiers poured in. Mira stood in front of Toma, her face fierce and calm. "Go," she said. "I will hold them." Toma hesitated. "No, I'm coming." "Now," she said firmly. Toma ran down a narrow corridor. Mira faced the soldiers alone. She moved like a shadow, quick and strong. Her blade flashed in the dim light. She fought, without fear. Toma reached the rooftop exit and climbed the stairs. Outside, the sky was clear and full of stars. He pulled out his radio and called for help, hoping someone would hear. Back inside, Mira's strength was fading. The soldiers closed in. Just as they reached her, the consoles blinked green. The command signal was sent. Outside, ships in orbit flickered and stopped. Engines died. The war fleet froze in place. The soldiers stopped too, confused and silent. Mira smiled faintly. She had done it. Toma reached the rooftop. He saw the fleet frozen in the sky. A new hope was born. He thought of Mira fighting alone. He shouted for her to come up, but there was no answer. Suddenly, the door opened. Mira stepped out, tired but alive. "We did it," she said. Toma helped her down. They looked up at the silent ships. "The war is over," Mira said softly. Toma nodded. For now. The sky was calm, the future was uncertain, but together they had changed the course of history. The days after the signal was sent felt strange. The sky was quiet. Ships once full of war now floated like statues in space. Mira and Toma stayed near the old tower, watching the calm that followed the storm. News traveled slowly across the planets and moons. Soldiers laid down their arms. Leaders called for talks. The war fleet's silence was a chance for peace. But peace was not easy. Old wounds ran deep. Fear stayed alive. Mira looked at the stars and thought of her home, the place where she was born, the place she could not return to. Her people were divided. Some wanted war, others wanted change. She had made a choice that cost her everything. Toma watched her. He saw the weight she carried, the hope she held. One morning, a ship arrived. It was large, with shining blue lights and tall wings, the royal cruiser that had chased them. But this time, it was different. A woman stepped out. She wore a crown of silver and gold. Her eyes were kind but strong. She was the queen. Mira bowed her head. Toma stood beside her. The queen looked at them both with respect. "You have done what few could," the queen said. "You stopped a war that would have destroyed us all." Mira spoke clearly. "I chose peace. For all our people. For Earth and beyond." The queen smiled. "And you are not alone. This human stands with you. A reminder of what strength and courage truly mean." Toma felt a warmth inside. He had come from a broken world, a place where people forgot how to hope. But now, here he was, standing with a queen and a future. The queen turned to Toma. "You belong here, more than you know." Toma looked out at the stars. For the first time, he did not feel lost. He felt at home. Across the next months, peace talks began. Mira became a voice for unity. Toma helped build connections between humans and aliens. The war fleet was dismantled. New alliances formed. Toma learned more about Mira's people, their history and culture. He taught her about Earth, its beauty and struggles. Together, they dreamed of a future where different worlds could live in harmony. One evening, Toma stood on a balcony in the Queen's palace. The sky was full of stars and distant lights. Mira joined him. "You changed everything," he said quietly. She smiled. "No, you did." He looked at her, his heart full. "I don't belong here." She took his hand gently. "Yes, you do." He nodded, finally believing the words. The stars shone bright above them. A new chapter had begun,